So let's have a look. So looks like Alistair's here as well. So I'm making all of you guys presenters. So later on when we actually get into the worksheet or doing it, so you can still call me over, not in physically come over, but you know, I should be able to still see your screen and be able to give you a hand or something like that. So I can see trans joining as well. So I'll be using this. So if you haven't noticed, I've got this icon here. So for you guys, you might see just this little pink purple icon on the right. And you can see there's a chat window where we could say, hi, everyone. Yeah, hi, everyone. And you guys can chat. So from time to time, I'll say, give me a thumbs up if you understand what I'm saying. And if you just do that, that will give me a quick indication that you guys are sort of following what I'm talking about. And if you click on this, you'll see that Tran's now joined us. So Tran, can you actually hear me? Okay, kitty cat. So what about you, Tran? Can you actually hear me? I don't know. I'm using. Yeah. So okay, you can hear me. Okay, no worries. So you'll be experts by the time we're finished with this. But let's get started anyway. So today we're looking at implementing remote management. Okay. So what are we talking about? We're not talking about VPN, even though that is going to be part of it in the future. What we're talking about is how are we able to control our Windows 10 if we're not on the Windows 10 itself. I'm just going to double check that I'm recording. Yes, I am. Good. So how do we administer our Windows 10 if we're not on it? Okay, for example, what if you're not at home? What if your support officer and someone else needs assistance? What if you're not physically able to get there? A bit like our situation right now. Our situation right now is that I'm at my house and your own houses or wherever you might be working at, but I might actually need to control your computers. So there'll be some things that'll work on the LAN only, and there'll be some things that'll work even from the internet. Okay, so let's get straight into it. So today we're going to look at using remote desktop, remote assistance, and talking about remote PowerShell. All of these tools are designed, and I will show you a few other tools as well. All of these tools are designed to essentially work on the LAN. Okay, so we've sort of kept the WAN out of it for now because that's something that adds complication, because we all know that when you're on your computers, some of you guys are at home right now. Some of you guys are at home right now, so you're probably sitting behind your ADSL or NBN router, which means your computers are not really directly on the internet, which means that I bet you if you look at your computer's IP address, so I bet you if every one of you guys open up a command prompt and type ipconfig, and if we look at physical network adapter, let's have a look at which one's my physical one. I've got so many. Looks like this one, the Wi-Fi adapter. I bet you your IP address on your computer, doesn't matter where you're sitting, will start with 192.168 or 172.16 or 10. Is that correct, everyone? Did you have a look for yourself?
Yeah, mine says 10.
10, yeah. So you guys have been doing Cisco, haven't you?
Yeah.
So what's the significance of those three IP addresses? And I'm talking about, if I go here, let's go to a whiteboard. I was talking about the 192.168.something.something. Oops. And the 172.16.something.something. something, and the 110 dot something dot something dot something. All right, I think I saw a little message pop up, and no, that was not it. So what's the significance? If you guys have been doing those, doing your Cisco, what's the significance of those three IP addresses? Can anyone remember?
They are private IP addresses.
Correct. Okay, good work. So they're private IP addresses, which means they don't exist on the internet. They're non-routable IP addresses, which means they'll never be able to find you if you're using one of those IP addresses. They're reserved for the offline network, essentially everyone's LAN, which is hidden behind their ADSL or NBN router. So that makes life a little bit difficult across the internet. So unless you've configured port forwarding or doing some sort of a NAT, or you actually have a public IP address, it's very hard for us to discuss remote administration using these tools from the internet. But they are tools, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. So right now, let's talk about remote desktop. As the name suggests, its ability to use the desktop from a remote location. So let's actually give you a quick demo of that. So let me just share my screen again. So can everyone see my screen? Can everyone see that I've got a Windows 10 VM here?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, all good. Okay, sorry. Like I'm not looking at that thing. And in class, I would just look at your eyes, and you would be, yes, Alex, I definitely understand what you're talking about. But right now, over this platform where me looking at your eyes, so I can't really see if you actually are understanding or not. So let me just delete that first of all. So here's a typical Windows 10 computer. Okay, just the same one we've been using all along, the one we created in lesson 1. So with remote desktop, there's a couple of ways of administering it. One way is to actually go right-click on this computer and select properties. All right, so before we even think about talking about remote, what could be blocking connections to this computer for anything?
A firewall?
Firewall, yeah, good one. So I might just go straight to the firewall. So on the control panel, system and security, firewall, and I'll make sure I'll turn it off just for practice. You know what I've said, you would never turn this firewall off in real life, but just so we're learning, if we're learning about remote desktop, we don't want to actually have the firewall confuse us as to why the firewall is not working, or why remote desktop is not working. So I've turned it off. I'm only doing this because this is a virtual machine, not my real machine that's at home and exposed to the dangers of the world. So the next thing is, if I right click here, go to properties, I can look at the remote settings, and right here is talking about remote desktop here. So I've already configured this one to allow remote connections to this computer. And if I look at, I don't have to allow it for everyone, to be honest. I can allow it for specific users. You notice that there's a user on my computer that already have access. Okay. So if you look at this first part that's here, it says users listed below can connect to the computer, and any member of the administrators group can connect to the computer if they're not listed. You can see that this Lily user is not listed here. What do you think this Lily user is then?
Administrator.
Administrator. That's exactly right. So if you remember, when we first installed our Windows, we actually created a user account for ourselves, and that first user was this for me, because I was doing it as if I was a student. I created a user called Lily, and that first user, if you look, it's a member of the administrators group. But you'll see that I've created another user called Earthway Evans. And if I open up the properties of this, you can see this is this is just a normal user, but because I've given him access to the remote desktop, he's a member of the remote desktop users group as well. Let me just remove him out of that. I'll click OK. And basically, if we go back to my remote desktop settings, you can see that he's gone now, isn't he? You guys can all see that he's disappeared out of this window. So that's because we took him out the remote desktops users group. So if we look at groups, you can see there is a remote desktop users group. And basically the way you would give someone access to remote desktop is either by placing them as a member of this group manually, like for example, right click, properties, member of, add. Oh, it's not gonna, it's not gonna allow me to find it easily. So I'm gonna quickly find it and click OK and OK and so forth. It's gonna have a problem with that. So, but I'm not gonna add it this way. Another way is to actually be in the remote desktop administrative properties, and I can just click add, and E. Evans is the user. There it is. And then I've added. And by clicking OK now and OK now, you can see I should have put him back as a remote desktop user group. So really, even though we're doing it that other way, we are really putting him as a group member. And that's how the delegation of privileges is done. The next thing is, in order to connect to this computer remotely, I have to have another computer on the same network. So if you remember, I have this on the host only. I have this link client in this case, which is exactly the same machine. It's also on the host only. But besides being on the same network, what else do they have to have in order to communicate with each other, guys? What?
They have to be on the same network?
Yeah, same physical network. And what do you mean by same network now?
As in like the IP addressing?
Yeah, logical network. So that's exactly right. So in order to be on the in order to be able to talk to each other, not only do they have to be on the same network, physical network. Well, these are virtual machines, so the physical network is actually the VM network they belong to. So in this case, host only, VMnet 1. But the logical network is their IP address, which is what you're saying. So if I open up an command prompt and do an ipconfig on this computer, I can see I've got an IP address. But what class of IP address is this? So for the Cisco people doing Cisco, what class? Who said that? Matthew, was that you?
Yeah,
Yeah. What'd you say?
Class C.
Class, correct. Class C, because this first number is above 128, I believe. And you can see the default subnet mask is this 255.255.255.0. What does that mean as far as which portion of this network IP address, what portion of this IP address is the network portion?
The first 3 octets, I think.
Yeah, the first 3 octets, those ones which effectively are sitting above the 255s. So what does that mean? The last octet is?
That's a
If
host
it's not a network
address.
host. So basically, if another computer is to be on the same logical network as this computer, it means they need to have the same first 3 parts, but the last part can be different. All right, so let's confirm this by going to the link line, logging in. It's a link line, so everything is exactly the same, including the user account. And if we start up a command prompt here, I don't even remember. So it was 192.168.245. 192.168.245. They're the same, aren't they? And if you look at the last octet, they're different. Okay, so let's ping it. I think that one's the other one was 245.128. Yeah. So you remember our ping tool? That's an echo request. It requests echo as in a reply, and by getting these replies, I'm actually it signifies to me that my this computer is able to talk to the other computer, and everything in between is configured correctly. All right, so so obviously the reason why we are confirming this is that we don't want anything else besides whether we've configured remote desktop correctly or not to stop us, to prevent us from connecting via remote desktop. So to connect via remote desktop, all I have to do is start the remote desktop program, and I can do that by typing here, remote desktop connection. I can, and basically in the computer, we can have a few other options. But with this default area, we can actually either connect by the computer name, whether that be just a NetBIOS name or a fully qualified domain name. So if you use a fully, you should be able to connect to it anywhere. Whereas if you use a NetBIOS name and you don't have DNS, you're really only able to connect to it on the same LAN segment, meaning the same broadcast domain, because you'll use the broadcast to resolve the NetBIOS name. Okay, so my computer's called Win10. That's why I renamed it to, and I'm going to connect, and it should ask me for a username password, but I might have done this before. Oh no, there it is. E Evans, password 1, which is the one I gave it. And this is trying to connect. Let's see how it goes. So while that's connecting, so remote desktop is a built-in feature of a feature that people use to access computers from other devices that supports RDP. So basically, it stands for Remote Desktop Protocol. It's used by administrators to connect to remote devices for the management purposes. All right, so the next thing I see here, so I'll switch back. Next thing I see here is this warning. What do you think this warning is all about, guys? So it says that the remote computer could not authenticate due to the problem with its security certificate. It may be unsafe to proceed. Have you ever heard of that before, guys?
Yeah, I've seen it. I saw it last night actually. Trying to
On remote desktop or
yeah,
on something else?
Yeah, on remote desktop.
Okay, so can you explain what this means, or do you have an idea what this means?
I suppose it's a security feature to make sure you're connecting to a secure source or something. Is it like a?
Yeah, it is. It is. It's
like
sort of saying that you're connecting to a secure computer or not. But anyone else with any ideas with that? So the key thing here is this bit of writing. The certificate is not from a trusted certifying authority. Does anyone think they know what it means?
I think.
That's all right. Is that Matthew?
Yeah, it was. I don't know how loud I am.
Yeah, you're a little bit low, but that's okay. I picked you out. So what does it mean?
I think certain programs have specialized certificates that are authenticated, but this one's not. So Windows 10 isn't one of those authorized authorities.
You're sort of on the right track, but let's explain to everyone. So basically, if you were in real life and you met up with a stranger and he's about to sell you something, like, think of Gumtree. He's about to sell you something, but the thing is that you have to pay him the money, but he won't give you the thing until next week. And he goes, trust me, guys, trust me. Yeah, you give me the money now, I'll give you the thing I'm making next week. Are you guys going to trust him?
No.
Probably not. So therefore, that computer, Windows 10, or someone Windows 10, or whatever, really, saying trust the certificate to encrypt your communication between you and this other computer, but it's okay. And obviously, your computer is saying, "Whoa, this certificate, it's it's from an untrusted authority." So it's saying, "Whoa, this is a bit dodgy. Do you want to still go ahead and continue?" So that's equivalent to that meeting that stranger on the street. But let's take that scenario again. So let's say there was that stranger to you that was on the street, and he said, "Trust me, I'll give you that that thing next week if you pay me now." And you're not going to trust him. You just told me that. But what if your best mate said, "I know this guy. He's okay. He's okay. I know him. I know him. I've known him for a while. I've got stuff from him before. He's okay. You can trust him." Are you more likely to trust him?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, okay. So you got someone vouching for this stranger to you, but it's not a stranger to them, if you like. So basically, when we're talking about certificates, this is same for websites. Okay, if you go to a website that has HTTPS, but it doesn't have what's called a signed certificate, you'll get that warning in your browser say, "Oh, unsigned certificate" or something like that. Do you want to proceed? Have you seen that before as well?
Yeah.
Yeah. But in this case, it's because we're using certificates, but we never went out and bought a certificate, did we? We don't have a certificate authority set up on our network. So basically, this is a certificate that was created by that Win 10 machine without going through the appropriate channels. So what we can do as an organization is we can go to VeriSign, Ford, GoDaddy, whatever, and get a certificate. If we look at this Learn site, if you like, you see this HTTPS. So it's using certificates. See this lock symbol? If you actually look at the certificate here, you can see TAFE SA has got a certificate that was issued by Amazon to us. Everyone knows Amazon, don't they?
Yeah, my screen seems to have frozen.
Your screen seems to be frozen. Is that the same for
Yeah.
everyone? Or
Yeah,
Is that-
the screen is still on the remote desktop connection security certificate problem.
Oh, okay. That's the same for everyone else as well?
Seems so.
Yes.
All right, no worries. Give me one sec. Give me one sec, and I'll see what's going on.
Week 1 going well.
Yeah. Okay, can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
All right, so
Yep.
I'm just rejoining the communication. Are you guys able to see my screen now?
Yes.
Is it refreshing?
Looks to be.
We can see you moving around.
Yeah, okay, so that's good. So yeah, so teething problems as usual, but I'm sure we'll work it out by the time we get through today. But I was saying that this is the TAFE website, as you can, TAFE Learn site, and I was saying that how you have this HTTPS. Okay, you see that, guys? That's using HTTPS, which is user certificates as well, to secure the communications, which means it encrypts it so no one else can intercept it and read it. If we actually look at the lock symbol next to it, we can click on it and look at the certificate. Can you guys see that I'm showing you that it's issued by Amazon?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. All right, so basically everyone knows Amazon. That's like everyone would trust Amazon. But what we've done there is actually we've spent money to get Amazon to verify that we are a legitimate business and therefore issue a certificate that people will trust. You get me, guys? So you don't have warnings on your browser when you go to the TAFE SA site. But here, because this is a virtual machine because this is not something we've set up with any backup of holotape SA. This is just on the fly. There's no signed certificate. So you can still see there's a certificate. So it still uses a certificate for the purposes of, sorry, it's not responding. For the purposes of encryption and securing the data, it's just that this is issued by ourselves. You can see this is not, this certificate of authority root certificate is not trusted. And we can look at the details if we wanted to. But effectively, this is a certificate we created ourselves. But you know what? It's still safe because I created it on the Windows 10 machine when I enabled remote desktop. But you just have to understand why you're getting that error. You get me, guys? So right now, you see how I've got this toolbar and I'm actually on the desktop of Windows 10. Windows 10 is not a multi-user operating system, meaning that you can't have more than one user logged in at the same time. Whereas if you were doing this on the Windows server, you could have multiple users logged in at exactly the same time using the server. And right now, by us logging in remotely like this, I will be signing out the user called Lily from the other computer. Do you guys get me with that?
Yep.
No worries. So let's wait for this to log in and we'll go through another slide while we're at it. So with the remote desktop, in a minute you'll see that it basically is as if you're on that computer. Okay? It's basically as if you're on that computer. But we can also redirect a few things. It's a bit like using a virtual machine. So here, for example, we can redirect the sound. So if there's a sound on the remote computer, it will be annoying to hear that sound, especially if you want to hear that sound. It's being played through the physical speakers at the remote computer, but we can actually redirect it so that the remote remote audio is going to be played through our own speakers. Keyboards, so basically, when you can switch with the quick keys, hotkeys, they allow you to apply various Windows key combos, and it means various things. And here again, with the printers and clipboards, we can redirect our own clipboard and our own printer. What does that mean? It means if we click print in the remote machine, it's not going to come out of the printer at the whichever printer that remote machine's connected to. It's going to come out of our printer at our local machine. The clipboard allows us to copy and paste. Just a bit like VMware tools, lets us copy and paste between the physical machine and the virtual machine. This is going to let us copy and paste between our local machine and the remote machine. And this is redirection of the various drives as well. So let's go back to our virtual machine and see how we're there. So this is our Windows 10 from the link clone, connected via the link clone. If I switch over to Windows 10, you can see it's all been locked out. And I can log back in, but by logging back in, I'll kick this guy off. If I actually go and copy some things from my real machine into the link clone, and I'll create a new text document, you can see that's copied in there. It's copied into the link clone, which is then sending it through the network to the Windows 10 through the virtual network, if you guys get me. And so basically, when I click on start, it's not clicking on start on my my local computer, it's clicking start on the remote computer. If I minimize this, I'm actually on the local computer. So I'll just change the background a little bit because it's a link clone and it's exactly identical. So it's a little bit, yeah. So it won't. That's good. It won't let me change it because it's a not activated computer. But I think you guys get me. So you see how I can minimize, maximize, and use it to do all sorts of things, including computer management, remote administration, looking at performance, looking at local users, looking at looking at task scheduler. Basically, in everything you can do on your local machine, you can do on this remote machine. It's a full access. The only thing I will say be careful about is obviously if you're talking about configuring the network. Can anyone see any problems if actually disabled and re-enabled this network card? Sometimes we have problems. We disable network card and re-enable it. We sort of reload the settings. Can anyone see any problems if I did this now?
It'll probably terminate for connection.
Absolutely, we'll terminate connection because we're connecting via remote desktop through this network card. So if we disabled it, the connection would close, wouldn't it? So therefore, if I can't physically get back on that computer, how do I even enable it to remote administer it again? So you've got to be careful when you do things like that. You get me? Like ipconfig release renew, or if you just did release, you could possibly lose your connection and not have a connection back from remote desktop. So if I needed to do something like that, I would suggest you put that in a script. So look up PowerShell commands or whatever commands and work out what you want to do and then run it as a command, meaning that it will disable. So you'll lose connection, but the next part of the script will actually enable the network card again. And again, it will turn on and then it will have a connection, then you can connect back in later on. So I would suggest that you do things like that as a part of a script rather than as individual actions. To get out of remote desktop, I can just close it by clicking close here, or I can just simply sign out. Okay, so I'm signing out of the remote computer and I've got a couple of things open. That's okay. I'll sign out anyway, and they'll switch me back to my original computer. So where were we? All right. So that's a remote desktop. So we can configure remote desktop via group policies. So we've been mentioning this group policies quite a bit, but really the group policies are only available if you have an Active Directory, meaning you need a Server 2016 server with Active Directory and a domain controller configured. So instead of you going to configure this individually on every computer, so if you think of TAFE, literally thousands of workstation computers, you don't have to configure the remote desktop individually on each one of them. And guess what? If you were a support officer, wouldn't it be a lot easier to actually remote desktop that computer rather than walking across the campus to that computer in order to fix a problem if the network still works? And speaking of remote administration or remote help desk, there's another tool on Windows 10 which is called Remote Assistance. This is exactly set up for someone on a help desk or someone who's got more knowledge to help with someone who doesn't have as much knowledge. So Remote Assistance enables you to remote a remote desktop. Okay, it's not exactly the same as remote desktop like we saw. It allows you to create a chat session, allows you to control their computers. Let's have a look at that. So again, if we switch to Windows 10, we'll log back in as this Lily user. And again, we'll minimize all of this. I'll close this. And if I do remote, remote assistance. All right, so same place, but now allow remote assistance, allow this computer to be controlled remotely, and what is the maximum? So this is not a forever thing. This is a thing you create once off and allows access by another person temporarily. So this is not a forever thing where you can connect back to it anytime you want. Okay. All right. All right. All right. All right. Okay, so we'll go back here and we'll allow remote assistance is a tool. Windows remote assistance. Okay. Oh, sorry, I forgot. To actually start it, you type this in. Cancel that. W. I lost it for a second there. Now I totally forgot. So bear with me. I'm just going to open up the Windows MSRA. That's it. MSRA, Microsoft Remote Assistance. So basically, when this opens, you have an option. Come on, open up. Oh, here we go. It's opening in the background. You have two options. So basically, you're either inviting someone you trust to help you, or you're helping someone else. So this is set up perfectly for if I was on this Windows 10 and I'm this Lily person, I would be, if I was just the average user and I had problems and I needed someone to help, I would be known as the novice user, and I would be inviting a expert user to assist me. So I'm going to choose this option. So what happens is that you don't have to do any configuration. You just have to create a invitation file, and I'm going to put it on the desktop. Easy place to put it. Yeah, so here's the code. Here's the code. So basically, this is a one-time password, effectively. And what we could do is that now I want a expert user to help me. I would either email this, send this, or however I want to get it to them. It could be on a USB stick, could be on OneDrive and share it with them, or it could be just copied and pasted into this other virtual machine. And basically, the expert user on this link clone now can open that up by double clicking on it. And basically, this is where I enter that password. Let's get back to the desktop. Sorry, let's get back here. Here's the password. So you'll send the password to the person, and I would enter the password. I would then be able to connect. So this is very simple in the sense that now I can't just connect. I have to, Lily, on this computer has to accept by allowing them. So now I can see exactly what's on this computer. If I actually empty the recycle bin, you notice it's full. And I go here, you can see that the recycle bin's empty. So basically, it's the same computer. So I as the help desk operator, potentially, let's say I could say, hey, can you show me exactly what you were doing when you got to the problem? Right now, I can't, as this expert person, I can't do anything on that computer. But I can see, I can watch. I can watch, if you like, I can watch. So if you're wondering what I'm doing, I'm actually getting these two virtual machines on two different windows. And I am basically, you can see when I'm moving my cursor on this Windows 10, Win 10 window, you can see the cursor is moving on the other window because it is viewing what I'm doing. So if I said to Lily, can you show me what you did to actually to show me what happened when this problem? They could say, "Oh, I launched the alarm clocks, and I did this and I did that," and you can see that the other person can see it straight away on their screen. But if I was saying, "Oh, I can't really understand why it's wrong. Can I have a look around myself so I can actually request control?" Again, they don't get control because obviously that would be a little bit dangerous. But I can say yes as Lily to give them control. So now, if I'm on the remote user, when I do stuff, it's happening on this screen as well. It doesn't mean that Lily can't do things. It's like two people interacting with the computer at the same time. So as the expert, I can say, "Hey, let's do this. Let's obviously I'm trying to fit everything here for you, but I can also chat. I can say, "Hey, how about that?" You can see a chat window opens up, and you and the user can chat like you're probably used to the chat now. So this is another way of actually allowing an expert user to actually control your computer, but it's not full control. It's not like they can come back anytime. It's me allowing them a certain level of access, and I can pause that, which means I can do something without them seeing what's going on, or I can stop sharing, meaning that this person does not have control anymore, and I've got control. I can actually use the escape key to stop sharing if I wanted to. I can save a log of this file. I can exchange contact information. I can actually reduce the bandwidth usage. Okay, so use a 16-bit color. To be honest, it doesn't really matter if your desktop image doesn't look that great, as long as you can actually solve your problem or control each other's computer. So that's remote assistance. Let's keep on going. So assistance allows an expert to help a novice. So the person requesting help is the novice. The person providing the help is known as the expert. Again, we can configure this remote assistance using group policies. But again, that's not the scope of this subject. The group policies will be covered in a future topics, in future subjects, but right now, we're not going to look at it. So we can configure many group policy objects to turn it on, to configure it so that it can be used by the users as well as the administrator. What about commandlets? Remote desktop PowerShell. So we all know about PowerShell to some extent. We know that it's these commandlets, and anything we can do graphical user interface and Windows operating system can be done with PowerShell commandlets, and probably more. So, but you can also use what's called remote PowerShell, which basically means from my computer I can run PowerShell commands on another computer. When you run commandlets against a remote computer, some commandlets has the computer name parameter. You do not have to configure the computers for PowerShell remoting or fulfill the system requirements for remoting when you are using the commandlets with the computer name configuration. With the remote PowerShell, remoting features of PowerShell are built into the Windows Remote Management, and so it's sometimes referred to as Windows RM. So if we can run individual commands or can create a persistent connection or a session to run a series of commands. Remote management is also known as remoting. There's 3 ways of remoting. There's one to many, meaning from one computer, let's say my administrator computer, I can run commandlets on multiple computers, all the computers on the network, let's say. It could be a one-to-one, which means I'm just running a commandlet directly from my computer, executing on one other computer. or it could be many to one, many in, which is called fan in, which means many computers are remoting to this individual computer. So to actually allow, so this, obviously allow having remote PowerShell is a bit dangerous. So we have to actually enable remoting before this is possible. So to do that, we have to verify the status of the remote management service by using the WinRM, Windows Remote Management Quick Config command. Then we can enable remoting by enabling the PS remoting force, so PowerShell remoting. And when we're processing the remote commands, the local computer sends the PowerShell commands to the remote computer by using the Windows Remote Management Protocol. The commands run in the Windows PowerShell on the remote computer. The command results are then sent back to the original remote management via remote management protocol and displays on the local computer you're using. So this is a little bit off. All local inputs to the remote command is collected before any of it is sent to the remote computer. The output is returned to the local computer as it is generated. There's also constrained Windows PowerShell endpoints. Constrained Windows PowerShell endpoints allows you to limit which Windows PowerShell commandlets can be run during a remote PowerShell session. Session config files determine which PowerShell commandlets can be run during these sessions. So basically, it means you can turn it on, but you can turn it on with limitations. If you don't have limitations, it means they have full access to your computer. But to be honest, if you are turning it on, they still have to have power on your computer. So they are either an administrator or a domain user or domain administrator that has permissions. Managing PowerShell remote sessions. There's two types of PowerShell remote sessions. There's a temporary session, which to start a temporary session by the invoke command and the commandlet with a computer name as the parameter. A temporary connection is created for the command and the connection closes when the command completes. Persistent session is one that where you open a new PowerShell session on the remote computer, and it connects to the computer and then enters the session. We use the new PS session commandlet to create a PowerShell session. Then the invoke commandlet enables commandlets to be run within the PowerShell session. And then when we're done, we can use the exit PS session. So like I said, you guys are going to be, I'll close this by the way. You guys are going to be learning all about PowerShell in another subject. So for this purpose of this subject, be aware of PowerShell. Have some idea what it is to do, but that's not the main aspect of subject. There are a few small areas where you need to run some commands or commandlets, and this is where we need you to do a bit of research to find out how to do it. And this is basically one of those things where we're teaching you how to learn how to learn. Like we said, we can't give you every answer to every question that you'll encounter in your life as an IT professional, but hopefully by teaching you how to learn for yourself, you're able to overcome those challenges as they come up. But when you progress the create network scripts, you'll learn all about PowerShell. So those are those three tools. Okay, those are those three tools: remote desktop, remote assistance, and remote PowerShell. Like I said, they're perfect for on the LAN. But what if you need to remote administrate a computer that's on another LAN, let's say at your house? So on a real life computer, what you can do is you can actually open up another tool called Quick Assist. Quick Assist allows you to register. So it's a bit like that remote assistance. So you can get assistance or give assistance. So code for assistant, let's say test. and by registering on a like on a Microsoft website, and then from another computer who can also access the internet, I can actually use it's similar to that remote assistance. And this is something else that's built into Windows. We can actually remote assistance. So here's my code, expires in 9 minutes. I can copy it to clipboard. I can send it as an email. And basically, if I sent it to you guys, one of you guys, you could be able to control my computer or actually view my screen at least. So you can provide me some assistance. So if you were on the internet with a user like we are now, this is something we might use to actually allow me to control your computer or to help provide some help or view your screens. There's many others. Okay, so we're just talking about what's built into Windows, but remote control programs for Windows 10. So here's one: remote PC, PC anywhere, any desk, team viewer. I'm sure you can think of it. VNC is a free one. Log me in. There's so many different ones. But most of these require you to register on their site. Okay, so what does that mean? That means that I register with PC Anywhere, for example. I give control, and then when I'm off-site, away from my home, I don't need a VPN to my home network. I don't need to do port forwarding on my router. I just go to PC Anywhere, and I can log in with my credentials, and I can control my computer, which is at home. So that's useful because you don't have to worry about VPN or port forwarding. But for me, that seems like a little bit of a risk as well. But obviously, there's always some risk, but it's whether or not you trust these companies to actually be to be trustworthy. So there's many ways, and obviously in the future you'll be studying another subject with me, hopefully, and that subject will be discussing VPNs. So we'll talk about how we can VPN into your work, and how we can actually then, after we set up that VPN, then use things like remote desktop and so forth to control the computers. So usually you'll find that if you're off the network, you'll have to establish some sort of VPN connection back to your network before you can remote desktop or use any other remote control tools. So that's the end of the PowerPoint today. So what I'll get you guys to do is I'll get you to work through the new worksheet.